This episode is sponsored by Medicine Based Beauty, where beauty is backed by science. Hey guys, Alex here. I just want to quickly tell you about some upcoming events. So, CNY Women's Network events, January. Here we go. We have a Instagram live interview with Kelly Springer of Kelly's Choice Nutrition. We're going to be talking about health and wellness for businesswomen. That's going to be on January 7th at 9:30 a.m. Tune in if you're available. It's going to be a great conversation. Next up, we have a community dinner at Touche. This event is exclusively for members of the CNY Women's Network. We're going to be checking out the new French Bistro in downtown Syracuse, so I'm really excited about that. Still haven't been yet. Next up, we are going to be doing a fit and social event with Spoke Cycle on January 18th at 9 a.m. It's going to be a little collab event. Members of the Collective by CNY Women's Network get to go for free, but we are opening this up to our whole audience. So if you want to network in a different way, attend this event. If you like Spoke Cycle, if you like cycling, if you like working out, attend this event. We're going to be doing a cycling class, and then we're going to be doing a little social hour sponsored by Project Lean Nation. We're going to have some juice shots, protein bars, light refreshments, trying to get some coffee there. So definitely check that out if you're interested. Okay, so next up, we have some in-person coworking sessions happening at Commonspace. We've been doing in-person coworking sessions since March, but we decided we're going to open this up to our whole audience. So before it was just for our members, but we're going to invite everybody to come. Why not, right? The more the merrier. More is more. I love co-working. I don't know about you, but working from home is sometimes just not it. So it's really nice to just get dressed up, go somewhere where everybody is kind of in the same mindset and, tackle that to-do list. I'm always so much more productive at co-working. Last but not least, we're going to be doing a coffee meetup on January 25th. We still have a few more details to pin down before this event is live, but I do know that we're going to be collaborating with Anna Gill of Anna Gill Studios. She's going to be popping up and offering some special headshot packages. This is going to be, we're going to call it the New Year, New You networking event. So it should be really fun. It's going to be free to attend. Stay tuned for that. Otherwise, here are a few events on our radar. These are events that we are not hosting, but we highly recommend. First up is the Ascend and Elevate Retreat, hosted by Root to Rise CNY. This is going to be happening at Vanderkamp in Cleveland, New York on January 17th through the 19th. This retreat is going to be incredible. I had a chance to sit down with the hosts of this retreat last week to hear all about it. If you are looking for a reason to walk into 2025 feeling like your highest self, we actually worked out a special deal for you guys. So go to the show notes, click the link, and use the code Cultivate CNY for $200 off. And last but not least, the other event on our radar is the CNY Professionals Under 40 networking event happening on January 9th at the Mansion on James. Event's going to kick off at 5:00 p.m. and it is their New Year networking party. I went to their holiday party that they hosted last year at the Mansion on James, and I had such a good time. So I decided to sponsor this event. Really looking forward to it. I'm going to be in attendance, and I'm just really looking forward to reconnecting with people that I don't get to see too often. CNY Professionals events, always really great. We did a collaboration with them in September. We did a rooftop networking mixer, and that was a really good time. So I'll be leaving all the links you need in the show notes, and now we can start the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cultivate CNY. I'm your host, Alex Canavan, and I am so excited for you guys to hear from this week's guest. She is an accomplished registered dietitian and virtual nutrition coach from upstate New York who serves men and women across the United States. Her expertise lies in building confidence in the kitchen and helping her clients feel comfortable in their own skin through nutrition education, accountability, and tailored programs to help them achieve their goals. In this episode, we talk about how she started her own business, the history of dieting, and so much more. So, without further ado, let's welcome Emily to Cultivate CNY. It's been a long time coming, honestly, because I've actually had my eyes on you for a while. I've been following you. I love what you post on social media. A lot of what you say, I think, needs to be said a lot more. So, Emily Tills, welcome to Cultivate CNY.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've been following you for a while. I went to the CNY Women's Networking event like 2 years ago, and it was just the evening, came to some of the pop ups and everything, going over to press room. And you're a really great inspiration to see like pouring into other people in the community, other business owners, other women. And I'm so lucky to be here and to be asked.
The reason why I do what I do is because I was really lucky to have a very strong female figure as a mother, and it sounds like you as well. Your mother's the CFO of the American Dairy Association, which I just found out right before we started recording. And so, can we hear a little bit about your upbringing? Clearly you had a strong female figure in your life,
Yeah.
but give us the background.
So, born and raised in Liverpool. My parents, my dad is a pharmaceutical sales rep. My mom is the CFO at American Dairy Association Northeast. She's been there for 35 years. So, someone who's really put in the time and the effort, to build her way up. And my dad has just been so passionate with pharmaceutical sales. He started in finance. And then I think I was about two. He kind of realized that if he wanted to continue to grow, they'd have to move to New York City or to Chicago. And my entire family is here locally. So he said, like, let's pivot. Got into pharmaceutical sales, ranked some of the top salesperson, in multiple different areas as far as for the different medications and everything. So business has always kind of been around me. But when I was like thinking about going to school, my parents were like, don't go into business. Like, whatever you do, don't go into business. And I thought that was like kind of odd with both of them being in that field. But when I was 13, I had an eating disorder. Actually, 14, I had an eating disorder. I was on the JV basketball team. We were not good at all. I think at the time in that January, we were like 2 and 14, so really not good. And I was one of the older girls on the team, so I felt like one of the leaders in that situation. I'd been on the team then for 3 years, and one of our coaches made the comment at practice that none of us are in shape enough to play basketball. And at 14 years old, a freshman in high school, you're like, oh, okay. Like, I've got to make a change. I have to change myself if I want to be a leader, if I want to move up to varsity, if I want to, put in all of this work and to show off. And it really spiraled from there. I had lost about like 45 pounds in the matter of 3 months. And of course, the nutrition information around that time, 2012 or so, 2010, not really great. I remember having like the 17 magazine, like little like workout book and like flipping through and like staying up until 10 o'clock at night, like doing workouts in my room. And I look back and I'm like, I had let the opinions of somebody else or those pressures that you have to do something or you have to be better, get more in shape to earn your spot or to earn your worth really change, my own self-image and all of that. I had to go see a registered dietitian to become or to go through my treatment. I also had to see a therapist too, but the registered dietitian was really the one that made the most impactful change for me. Just to be someone who was so like warm and welcoming, which was really, really inspiring and kind of called me into this profession to be a registered dietitian.
They must have had a huge impact on your life.
Yeah.
Almost probably life changing and life saving in a way. Was it your decision to go and get help, or did your parents intervene and get you the help you needed?
It was both. My parents, I remember like Easter of that year, them sitting me down after dinner of saying like, we're really nervous. We're really scared. You don't seem like yourself. You're not energized as much. You're wearing sweatshirts and it's, 80 degrees outside. What is going on? And not really me coming to terms for the longest time that it was an eating disorder. I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. Going to the doctors and them doing labs and, checking weight and all of that. It really wasn't until probably 3 months after or so where I had that like rose colored glasses come off like situation. I was in the bathroom and you could just see like my hip bones and my ribs. And I was like, why am I resisting? Why do I feel like I was going through the motions as part of my treatment when it's like, I need to dive into this. I'm not myself anymore. My hair was thinning. And it really affected my relationship too with friends. And, I couldn't play summer lacrosse and summer basketball because I was just so deconditioned from being in an eating disorder.
Did you make a decision after going through treatment that that was what you were going to do, or did you go to, the typical traditional 4-year university after high school? How did it look like from that point to starting Nourished with Emily?
So I went to Bishop Ludden for high school and I played a couple different sports. I played softball, I played basketball, I played lacrosse, and I loved the world of sports. I thought maybe originally I would do sports marketing, which is my brother. My brother went into sports management. Um, And then I started to think more and more about like the nutrition aspect and how much nutrition changed my game for me, and especially, starting softball in 11th and 12th grade. I kind of got inspired from there. I was able to shadow the dietitian that had helped me, and that really reaffirmed that was something that I wanted to do. So I graduated in 2014 from Bishop Ludden. I went to Marywood University, which is in Scranton. Did my 4 years. I was in an accelerated program. So to be a registered dietitian, you have to do at least a bachelor's and now a master's as well, 1,200 hours of unpaid internship, and it's put out to like a national match pool. So very similar to a doctor going to med school. The same thing happens for a registered dietitian. I was just fortunate enough to be chosen for an accelerated program. So I did that in my junior and senior year, and then was able to sit for my RD exam in July of, what was that, 2018. And I was getting my master's at the same time as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started my business a few months after I got out of school.
Yeah. You've always been a super high performer, would you say?
Yeah, I would say it's ambition, and I think it's just the support of my parents and my family and those around me have really made it easy to be like, I want more, I want to do more, I want to change more. It's something that definitely takes discipline though, because there's days, like I'm sure as you know, you don't want to show up. You want to just lay in bed, or like, I don't want to do that video. I don't want to do that live. I don't want to, work on content or anything like that. But I think it's all about, at least for me, seeing that bigger vision and also seeing the impact too, working with clients and seeing, even just having a 30-minute conversation with them about like how stressful their weekend was and how their nutrition had like changed because of that stress, and how we can do these small things to help them change. It's amazing. It's really rewarding, and it helps to build that ambition too.
Are you a professional woman in Central New York looking to connect with a community that values local talent? Unlock your career's potential with the CNY Women's Network online business directory. For just $9 a month, you can enjoy a premier listing that connects you with a community of engaged customers, recruiters, and executives eager to discover you. Getting started is easy. Simply click the link in the show notes to purchase your listing, and your profile will be live within 72 hours. And one more thing, as a valued listener of the Cultivate CNY podcast, you get 20% off your first month with us. Just use the code Cultivate20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first month with the CNY Women's Network online business directory when you use the code Cultivate20 at checkout. Don't miss out on the opportunity to grow your career and attract new opportunities. Join the CNY Women's Network directory today to be seen, connected, and hired. Did you start Nourished with Emily right off the bat after all of your schooling, or did you work for another company or nutritionist before you started?
So when I graduated in 18, I moved up to Oswego with a boyfriend at the time, and I worked at a nursing home up there. Because clinical jobs, especially long-term care jobs, are very easy to get for dietitians right out of school. They're slower paced. You're still doing nutrition assessment and trying to counsel and all of that, but it's not as high acuity as if you're working here in a hospital. So it's a really great start. I was there for about 2.5 years. And a few months in, I was partnering with another local gym, and I was coaching some of their clients with nutrition. And it didn't feel right, as far as I couldn't do everything that I wanted because I was an independent contractor of them. So I was like, you know what? I can do this bigger. I can also do this virtually. I don't have to drive down from Syracuse to Liverpool, or Oswego to Liverpool multiple times a week to do it. So I then said, all right, let me figure this out. I'll go online. And in December of 2018, I hired my first business coach. And that was really like a pivoting point of like, all right, let's start to do this. Let's see how I can build this on my own.
That's amazing. So you made the investment in coaching and mentorship before you even started the business.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You don't really hear that too often. Usually people start by doing the thing and then they realize, oof, I really need some guidance here.
I had like my feet wet because I was still doing a lot of the social media stuff. I started my Instagram page when I was in college of just like, here's what we're making in basic food labs and things like that. But I realized that if I wanted to pivot and to have it to go online, I was following another dietitian at the time, who was doing what I wanted to do, but at that national level and all virtually. And he had started to mentor other dietitians. So I remember hopping on the call with him, and it was a very high pressure sales situation. And so me being very, very nervous, 22, of like, ooh, let's figure this out, I guess. I ended up saying, all right, let's do it. And he like asked me, he's like, before we get started, are you a quitter? Like, would you quit something? And I get that it's a qualifying question of trying to say, like, are you going to sign up for this? And I was like, the only time I ever quit something was like theater camp when I was 6 years old because I wanted to go home and hang out with my parents. So that's the only time I've ever quit something. So no, I'm not a quitter. I wouldn't say that. But that really helped me to figure it out. And I think that also bought me more of that speed of implementation of having someone there to support me and guide me throughout that time.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I've always been the type of person that I put the cart before the horse, and now I'm starting to really understand the value of doing all of your homework and making sure you do have that support system when you get started or while you're building. There's so much value in being able to confide, but also bounce ideas off of someone that might have already been there or just simply a business person in general.
They're really there, and he said it great for me. It's like it's that hand up, it's not a hand out because you still have to do the work, and I learned really from his failures. So, he helped a lot with the sales call process, which I've since changed from then because it was a very high pressure situation, and that just doesn't jive with me anymore. I want you to be like, "Yes, I wanna work with Emily, I wanna work with her team," not kind of get you to, you know, have you say yes because I'm conditioning you to say yes to all these things. But it was really, really helpful to kind of have that support of, okay, he knows and he's been there before, and he was only a few years older than I was, to really help kind of buy me that speed and buy me that progress a lot faster.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to dive into sales strategies with you later in the episode.
Yeah.
So what does the business look like now for you? How many clients do you see? How have you structured the business, and what services do you offer to clients?
So we have a variety of offerings. I have two other dietitians that work with me for our private pay side. And those clients that are working with us on the private pay side, we have about 30 to 35. They get total access to us. So if they have questions on something, they're going out to eat, they can send us a message at any time. They get access to our entire recipes, our resources, our guides, all of our video trainings. We do 3 client only trainings a month, trying to give people all of the tools that they need so that they can graduate. If you're working with me forever, that means I'm not doing my job. I want you to be your own dietitian at the end of it. So we have that aspect of our business where, people can track their food and we leave them feedback. We may have calls with them every 2 to 3 weeks or so, depending on, what level they might be going with. And then we also have our insurance-based side. So we'll get referrals from area physicians where someone has diabetes and we need to do what's called medical nutrition therapy, which is what registered dietitians do to help them change and, put them into remission for diabetes and also correct their lab reports. We have a client that's just starting with us who's in CKD3, so chronic kidney disease stage 3. He doesn't want to have to be on dialysis. So he's taking that proactive approach, and my team is able to help walk him through, okay, this is what we're looking for. These are the metrics that we're kind of monitoring and go from there. We also have our membership, which is a great way of just getting started. So you still have access to the food tracking. We do a monthly masterclass, which is a 1 hour deep dive. You have all of our recipes, resources, video library in there as well. And we run a small group coaching program. So we cap it at 8 participants, and it's really focused on building that solid nutrition foundation. Because something I found, and correct me if I'm wrong, we weren't taught nutrition in school. There was no class in elementary school or high school. We weren't taught how to build a plate and how to be mindful eaters, where that's really what the goal is of this small group coaching program, is to give you that foundation you never had so that way you can help your family grow and thrive too.
Yeah, I think the mindset is definitely shifting. I also think people are waking up to the culture that has existed here for so long. And people are just, I wouldn't say becoming more skeptical, but being more conscious, which I think is amazing. And I'm so glad people are doing it. So let's talk nutrition. What have you noticed are some of the biggest pain points your clients have?
The history of dieting is huge. So, primarily, we work with women. We do have men clients, but so many women have struggled with their weight or have been trying to lose weight for 20, 30, 40 years, where they have said that they have never felt happy with themselves. Every time they go to the doctor, they're gaining weight, and the doctor just says diet and exercise. So there's no really structured approach. That's where the registered dietitians come in to give you that structured approach and accountability, but that they've been struggling for so long and that all they've ever done is take food away. So we have so many clients that come to us and they're eating like 800 calories a day. And I'm like, you are not eating enough. I'm going to tell you, you got to eat more. And we say that probably 9 times out of 10 to new clients. And they are so like, are you crazy? I'm like, no, 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 no. You have just hurt your metabolism or caused your body to go into, I'm sparing everything that I have. I have to stop doing the accessory things like hunger and fullness cues. Digestion would be out of whack. Your sleep is horrible. Your energy's in the tank because you're not eating enough. And they're like, oh yeah, that sounds just like me. I don't feel great at all. So it's the periods of dieting forever, and I think we're just constantly surrounded by that information too. Growing up in the '90s, I know it was a really big like low fat craze, and I definitely wasn't aware of it. Born in '96, but then you had like the snack wells and like the small like 100-calorie packs of the early 2000s, and that kind of conditioned us that it's got to be as little as possible and as small as possible, where it really is just perpetuating a lot of those eating disorder behaviors for many people.
Yeah, yeah, and all the fat-free, it's kind of vilified fat in general, which is super, super important for our brain health. And it's no secret that dementia and Alzheimer's is much more prevalent in women. And it's great that we're having conversations like this now, but it makes me also sad for, the generations that have come before us. Because I was born in '98, and I vividly remember, the diet culture being completely marketed to us everywhere we went. And now, my father actually has dementia. So now I'm just really I've done so much research into brain health and how diet and lifestyle really contributes to that. And, these 100-calorie snacks would promote being fat-free, yet they were full of sugar and and carbs, which carbs aren't bad, but, you know, sugar is one of the biggest contributors to inflammatory and chronic diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia.
Yeah.
So,
When they
it's
took the fat out of food, so fat, sugar, and salt give things flavor. When you remove one of those things, you have to increase the other two. So when they took all of the fat out of things and marketed it as fat free in the '90s, they increased the carbohydrates, they increased the sodium, and we're also dealing with a huge diabetes epidemic because we became so reliant and those calories didn't go away. It wasn't that it was lower in calorie, it was higher because they added extra carbohydrates in to give you back that flavor.
let's kind of go into what are some of the things you wish would stop in terms of diet culture? I'll give an example. Juice cleanse. Like I personally I don't believe in them. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that it's healthy because you're not eating nearly enough. You're not consuming any protein and you're consuming a ton of sugar. So it's no wonder why day 3 of the juice cleanse, people are absolutely miserable. They want to pull their hair out.
Yeah, I would agree about the juice cleanse. I don't hear that as often. I hear that often as like a quick fix kind of thing, but your skin, your kidneys, your liver, your lungs, they are constantly cleansing for you. If anything, it's very expensive laxatives that you're ending up taking. And if, like you said, if we just switch to more whole foods, more whole grains, more fruits and vegetables, you will feel so much better. And the hard part is with many things like that is we go, it's that pendulum. And I've been saying this a lot to clients recently. It's that like I'm going to this extreme and then it's so hard to stick with that I have to, overcompensate of like, I'm starving. I need 3 large fries from McDonald's right now because I just can't stop eating. So that's one that I'm not a huge fan of the cleanses, of course. Another one is Weight Watchers because there's very little evidence of long term success unless you are on that program for life.
Which they will probably want, right?
They have lifetime members. So me thinking about that, I don't know if I would want to raise my hand and say, I'm a lifetime member of Weight Watchers, that I have to go in every week and I have to weigh myself in order to stay a member. That just, it doesn't vibe with me. I really only weigh myself at doctor's appointments. And I really, as long as I'm consistent with my nutrition and I'm not engaging in crazy things, my weight stays the same. So Weight Watchers is one where I have many clients that have done that in the past, and they're very confused too because they always change those point systems. The nutrition information on what you are eating is not going to change. So yes, fruits and vegetables are 0-calorie foods, but you can also still overeat on those. There are people who will eat 2 pounds of baby carrots and they get that vitamin A toxicity where their skin starts turning orange. But that's a 0-point food on Weight Watchers. So it's very hard because I don't understand the points. I ask my clients who've done Weight Watchers, what do the points mean? And they're like, I couldn't tell you. I have
It's
no idea.
in a way, it's still disordered eating
100%.
because even if it's a bag of carrots, you're still abusing it. You're still using it as that tool to do something compulsively. So how do you help your clients start to develop a healthier way of living and thinking about food?
So the first thing that we like to accomplish with clients is talking about how to build a plate. So oftentimes I say this on social media, we're looking for PCC. And I joke with clients, and if I'm doing it in a presentation setting too, you're going to think about me every single time you eat now for the rest of your life because we always want protein, we want carb, and we want color. But then it comes down to how am I setting that up on the plate? What does that look like on my plate? What's the portion size? But then also focusing on, and it's something that's a nice feature in the app that we use called Practice Better, you can rate your hunger and fullness. So it helps people to slow down before they eat and say, what am I feeling right now? Am I actually hungry? Am I irritable? Am I eating because of reaction to a bad phone call I just got from my boss? So slowing down is a huge piece, but trying to turn off that autopilot is another huge thing that we work on with clients because I know sometimes I'll be driving downtown and be like, how did I get here? And that's your autopilot taking over saying, don't worry, Emily, I'll figure this out. I'll get you downtown. It's the same thing too with eating, where maybe it's 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you walk into your break room at work and there's a huge thing of chips on the table. And I love chips. I've got 2 bags of chips at home right now. But you just go and grab 3 of them and you eat them really quick on your 15-minute break and you walk back and you're like, why did I do that? Like, I'm not even hungry and now I'm uncomfortably full and I'm feeling just not great overall. So, that slowing down, creating more of that mindfulness is really big. We have to turn off that autopilot because, especially with any sort of emotional eating or trigger eating, even end of the night, it's usually not from you're hungry, especially if you had a great dinner. It's because your autopilot's taking over and saying, this is what we're doing next. Let's go grab a bag of popcorn, which I love popcorn. But if you're not hungry, let's try to honor that hunger and fullness cue.
Yeah, yeah. And if someone is prone to the maybe say their nightly ritual is they sit on the couch, they grab the popcorn and they watch their show. How do you break that habit and kind of start to reprogram?
I think the big thing with that pattern eating is breaking that cycle. So you're giving the example of like eating popcorn on the couch. Um, Maybe if you're like, this is a really great way that my partner and I like to connect, we can still have it. We can factor it into the day. We don't have to take it away, but maybe it's putting it into smaller bowls so we know how much we're having at that point. Or if you're like, I'm really not hungry, I really don't want the popcorn, but I end up eating it anyways, and this is a strategy that I learned when I was sitting in on smoking cessation classes as part of my internship in school, changing where you're sitting. So smokers, they like to sit in that maybe one chair, they eat their cereal and they have their cigarette in the morning. Research shows that if you just change it and you sat in the other chair or you sat on the other side of the couch, that you may not get those same cues and sequencing that autopilot I was talking about is giving you of saying, let's go have more, or let's have something else. With the stress eating that we can sometimes fall into, it's if we can pause, like you said, with that first bite of food, if I can pause and just run through my senses and say, what am I hearing right now? What is my body telling me? What am I smelling? What do I feel? How do my pants feel on my legs right now? Are they itchy? Is that bothering me? What emotions are coming up? And being able to say, okay, if I eat, is that going to make it feel any better? You might absolutely will get that serotonin hit depending on what you're eating, but is it going to take away that stressor or take away that task that I'm putting off doing by me having, let's say, 3 bowls of ice cream at the end of the night? Probably not. You're still going to feel a little bit upset. You're still going to feel annoyed. You're still going to feel stressed out. And you're probably going to end up feeling a little bit overly full where you're like, oh man, I had way too much to eat. So that pausing, like you said, is really, really important. And it's the same thing too when we're sitting and eating a meal. If you've ever noticed, that last bite never tastes as good as that first bite. And that's part of your body saying, I have had enough to eat. I don't want any more. I made chicken sandwiches for my fiance and I a couple weeks ago, and they were wonderful. They were so good. I breaded them. They were on buns. I made a special sauce and I was eating it. And I was about 3/4 of the way through, and it was still great. The chicken wasn't bad, but it didn't taste as good anymore. It didn't taste like anything. And I was like, oh, this is my body saying, I'm done. I don't want any more. So I put it down and I carried on to what was rest on my plate. So that slowing down piece and giving yourself that break and asking yourself, which is hard in those situations, Will this change my situation? Will this make me feel better? It might make us feel better, but would that stressor still be there after the fact is a really big thing to think about.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? I'm sure that, what you're doing for people is not just teaching them how to eat, it's really like a journey of personal development.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time I'm not a therapist. Yes, we've taken nutrition counseling classes. I use a technique called motivational interviewing, which the idea is the answer is inside of you. I'm just guiding you to help pull it out and add some education and things like that to it. But deep stuff absolutely comes up on, sales calls with people and even just on client calls where we may not even talk about nutrition for 25 of the 30 minutes. It might just be like, all right, we're carrying on, but like what's going on? I know you've had 3 people quit at your work and this person's a business owner and her hours are longer and how can we change that routine? What's going on with your sleep? I know you've been waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. What can we change? Because it really is all interconnected. Food is just one piece of that pie, and we can't stop eating. So we don't want it to turn into a crutch for us or to say, like, I'm just not going to stop. I'm not going to eat anymore. It's more about how do I get all of this to live in balance and just to lead the lifestyle approaches that feel good for me.
Yeah. I would love to know. I actually love to ask everyone this. I always like to ask, what is your go to dinner? So it's cozy season. I'm a huge fan of crock pot meals, but what are you making this time of year that is not only making you feel the fall vibes, feeling cozy, but is also really making you feel really good? And, I love chili and stews for this because it's a really great way to pack in a lot of nutrients and vegetables. So, what's your go-to?
I got a crock pot on my wedding registry for my wedding shower, so I've really been diving into that because it turns on, warm after it's done cooking, which I love that. Highly recommend getting one of those. But I really love Italian wedding soup, and I'll pick up from Wegmans, bone broth because there's no added sodium to it. I'll get 2, 32-ounce containers of it. I'll grab 2 containers of the Mirepoix blend, which is onion, carrots, and celery. Dump that in there. If you go to Vince's in North Syracuse, they have mini meatballs in their freezer section. Add that in and do like a cup of pastina and you let it simmer there on low for 8 hours. And it is so good. I'll throw in maybe sometimes a handful of spinach and I'll do a grilled cheese on the side. It's a match made in heaven. I love tomato soup too, but those soups are so easy, especially for lunchtime. Then I don't have to think about what am I making at 12 o'clock when I only have 30 minutes to get something together. I can just throw it in the microwave and reheat it.
Yeah, I love to ask busy women what they're making, especially busy women that I know are doing all of the things and truly trying to just be their best selves. It's always a priority to eat healthy, but there's some days where it's just so hard. So I'm always interested in hearing not only, how are you eating the best you can eat, but how are you doing it as efficiently as possible? So I love that you're buying the cut veggies because that's something I definitely should be getting on. I don't want to cut things anymore. I'm over it.
Yeah, I love convenience items. And I had a question at a presentation recently. Someone was like, so you're telling us all processed food is great? I was like, no. I'm saying that the processed food industry has changed. And there are many things, I mean, bone broth is processed that have still a great nutrient quality to them. And I can be on top of, they're probably going to have higher sodium. I'm going to drink more water that day and I'm going to be on top of it. So it's finding that balance of, I love throwing a bag of like the steam fresh vegetables in the microwave because then my color is done with that meal. And I can easily do a turkey tenderloin in the oven or a pork tenderloin in the oven. And I can do baked potatoes with it, where that's a really great and balanced meal where I didn't have to cut those vegetables. I didn't have to think, how am I going to make them? And it's very, very hands off at the same time.
Yeah. So you obviously believe in a full balanced plate. So I'd love to know, what is your opinion on the carnivore diet that we're seeing everywhere right now?
I have a client. Last month, he said he was going to do it because he saw his mom doing it. His mom lost a lot of weight. So I said, okay, and my job as a registered dietitian, I'm not going to push anything on you. I am just here to educate and support. So I get tons of questions about like weight loss medications. I'm here to educate and support. At the end of the day, it's not my decision. I will help you either way. He was saying, I'm going to go on carnivore. I'm going to do this. And I said, okay, want you to take a multivitamin because you're not going to be getting any of the B vitamins. So you're going to become really, really sluggish. You're also not getting any fiber. So you may want to think about Miralax or some sort of probiotic to help with that. And about 2 weeks after the fact, he said, I'm getting the meat sweats and I'm not even working out. He's like, I don't think this is working for me. And I was like, I wanted you to come to that conclusion on your own. Why don't we come back to some of those quick and easy ideas? Because I know it's easy to cook up eggs. I know it's easy to cook up steak, but grabbing those vegetable bags, grabbing a pre-made protein shake at the grocery store, or those cut up salad bags can be a really great way for you to still get quick and easy meals in that are nutrient dense. So, not a fan. I'm predicting we'll probably see more fatty liver disease as well as high cholesterol and triglycerides as the year goes on, with more and more people doing that. Same thing too with keto.
A majority of us, of consumers, are really just looking at the result and looking at the surface. And we think that if someone looks fit and healthy, then they just are. We're not really taking in all those metrics and levels like we should that actually do indicate long term health.
The big thing I'll say to someone when they ask me about any restrictive diet, do you think you can do it forever? And they're like, no, 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 I'll do it. I'll lose the weight. I'll go back to normal. That's the biggest red flag. You want something that you can do forever. So if you're good with only eating meat for the rest of your life, go right ahead. But you're probably not going to be a really pleasant person to go out to dinner with, to be around. You're probably going to have those meat sweats. Not a fun situation. And the reason why the person still probably had diabetes is our bodies will make glucose from non-glucose sources. So people who are in ketogenic diets, a true keto diet is very low protein, very low carb, very high fat. Carnivore is still very high protein. Our bodies are taking proteins and turning them into glucose, which is why this person is still having diabetes issues because the body's saying, I got to get energy from somewhere. So it's not really treating that. And then you're also opening up the door to so many other issues. So it's asking yourself, if I'm not going to do this for the next 90 years, why am I starting it in the first place?
Yeah, because the goal should be to just simply focus on really honing those habits that you do want to keep for life. And like you said earlier, you're not going to push anything on anyone and you're not going to influence anyone to do one thing or another. I think the goal truly is to just worry about developing a healthy relationship to food in general and just a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. We overcomplicate it, especially with weight loss. If we can block out the noise, if we can block out you've got to take this supplement or you can't eat this, there's too much sugar in carrots. And you just said, I'm going to focus on my portions. I'm going to look for balance on my plate. I'm going to eat when I'm hungry. I'm going to stop when I'm full. You will find balance. Your labs will improve. Your health will be so much better. You'll be able to lose weight and keep it off. But once we get on that pendulum of super restriction to overeating, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you currently work with clients that are using Ozempic?
I would say about 10% of the clients that we work with right now are on Ozempic between our insurance-based clients and our out-of-pocket clients.
Okay. Because obviously there is a time and a place for Ozempic.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But we are all now seeing it being abused by Hollywood and people in mainstream media. So what are your thoughts around that? Have you had any clientele that maybe doesn't qualify for Ozempic, but they're interested in taking it?
I definitely have. I can't think of any of my clients offhand because any of them that are on it like have PCOS where they have insulin resistance. Or I have a client who's been trying to lose weight for 40 years and her doctor was encouraging her to take it. And she's like, I know you're not a fan. I was like, it's not that I'm not a fan. It's that let's do this the right way. Let's make sure that you're eating enough protein so that you're not one of the people who's losing all this weight and then you're losing all the muscle mass and you gain the weight back. So there are definitely people you see online. I know that there's an influencer I follow on Instagram and TikTok where she probably shouldn't be on it. And now she's having everyone join through her code of you can join with me too. And it really should be a conversation that you have with your doctor. And I've been approached by online pharmacies, definitely from overseas, asking if I want to be someone who prescribes it. And I was like, that's against my code of ethics. I cannot diagnose or prescribe medications. I'm just here to be that person to help guide. So I would love to see people on those medications also working with a registered dietitian, because chances are you don't want to be on those medications forever, especially with some of the side effects too.
Yeah, what are some of the side effects that people might not know about?
Constipation is a huge one to the point where people are getting bowel blockages that they have to have surgery to remove their ileus, which is a bowel blockage. They're also becoming really, really like lethargic, malaise, just overall not feeling great post injection, where they have 2 or 3 days where they're like, I cannot get out of bed. I had a client who she was on it a couple years ago. So before Ozempic hit, she was on Trulicity And her doctor's like, let's do it. We'll go up in dose. And the first 3 days, fortunately, she was retired. She was like, I can't get out of bed. She's like, I feel like I have the flu every single time that I take. It's not worth it. And then you add in the cost of it. Most insurance companies, you're still paying probably $500 to $1,000 out of pocket because insurance doesn't want to cover it either.
Yeah, it's so expensive, and I think it's really interesting how I mean, I don't wanna I'm not gonna go down a rabbit hole here. I love a good conspiracy theory, but I'm not going there. But, I think it's interesting how you were contacted to be a distributor of it, and you actually are should not be distributing it based on your qualifications. It kinda just shows you how much of a business it really is.
Absolutely. And 100% there's a place for it. One of the clients where she's on Medicare will not cover it. She has to go to a compounding pharmacy. And I was like, if you're going to take it, absolutely go ahead. It's probably cheaper for her to get it from a compounding pharmacy than to her to try to pay for it out of pocket through insurance. Um, but it's definitely a business. And I don't know, fortunately, of any other dietitians that are trying to prescribe it or throw it as part of their practice. Um, but we're definitely connected with physicians who will prescribe it if they do seem it necessary.
And isn't it funny how Medicare doesn't cover it, but lower income families are more at risk for heart disease and diabetes?
Medicare and Medicaid, very, very limited coverage for nutrition. So if you're on Medicare, the only way that you can see a registered dietitian is if you have chronic kidney failure, you have diabetes, or you have a transplant.
Which at that point,
Yeah. Which we can still do some work. We can try to get the diabetes in remission as much as possible. But they just passed legislation to open up Medicaid for nutrition services, especially for pregnant and expecting mothers, which is huge because gestational diabetes is running rampant as well.
I think the biggest issue with the Ozempic that we're seeing really is like we're glorifying this weight loss that's happening, but nobody's really realizing the repercussions that has had. And longevity and long-term health really has a lot more to do with your the amount of muscle on your body than the fat, really.
Absolutely. It's something where there's nothing magical really that happens at 40 or 50. Yes, menopause is a huge thing, and the changes in estrogen level do put us at risk for insulin resistance. They put us at risk for osteoporosis. But if you can stay active, if you can maintain muscle mass, your metabolism stays elevated. Your metabolism doesn't crash. You might have to make some nutrition changes as we get older, but motion is lotion for the body. I heard, I think it was a physical therapist from upstate said that. And I was like, I love that. So staying active is huge. That will absolutely keep your metabolism elevated. And caring for yourself, eating enough protein, eating the balance, maintaining muscle mass, and weight training, especially for women, is so important.
I just started weight training. Do you lift weights? Are
I,
you
I do. I work out with a personal trainer. And I had my certification as a personal trainer before. Um, I just don't kick my own butt very well. I will
Yeah.
go, I'll go and I'll do it. And I walk out a little bit sweaty. But when I have my half-hour sessions with him 2 to 3 times a month, I walk out there feeling like I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hired him for. So I love it. And I've started to mix in a little bit of running, but I am not a runner. I'll warm up with like a 10-minute interval jog, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I prefer strength training.
Yeah, I grew up dancing competitively. So wrapping my head around lifting heavy weights really just wasn't a priority for me. I really just started lifting weights this year and I'm 26. And between 22 to 26, I was doing a ton of like hot yoga and hot Pilates. I was probably burning 500 to 600 calories a class, eating super healthy, but I just felt like I should have been in a lot better shape or at least quote unquote looked better than I did. And I realized I'm really not that strong. My endurance is like through the roof. I can get through a class no problem, but why am I still struggling to carry my makeup kit and to carry a basket of laundry up the stairs? And I can safely say that incorporating weights into my workout routine has been game changing, not just, you know, around how I think I look or how I perform, but mentally. I think I'm a lot more confident in not just how I look, but how strong I am mentally.
It's really cool to be in the gym. I was there Saturday morning. I warmed up with my dad on the treadmill. He was walking on the treadmill. And then I went over and I was the only woman in the weight area. And I was like, heck yeah. And it's really cool to see and track your progress with, all right, maybe I can only do 5 pounds for tricep kickbacks, but now I'm doing 10 pounds and it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but triceps aren't really a strong muscle. You don't really use them every single day unless you're pushing yourself out of a chair. But to see that change and to get a different result because hot Pilates and hot yoga are great. I love a good sweat. I feel like I've never sweat so much in my life than taking a hot yoga class, but it's not the same as strength training is. It's not the same as building muscle. You're definitely toning and defining and you're sweating out all the toxins and everything, but it's not the same of building metabolism up and also building that muscle mass either.
What really got me on board with weightlifting was listening to wellness podcasts and finding out that the more muscle you have on your body, the more calories you burn just by resting. And the higher your metabolism is, so it becomes easier to lose fat and
Yep.
lose weight. So then I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it now.
And you don't get bulky. Like I have been strength training for probably 10 plus years. I've never felt like I look bulky or anything like that. It's all about, I mean, if you want to look bulky, go right ahead. But I do more of the endurance where it might be 3 to 5 sets of, let's say, 10 to 15 reps. I'm not doing super, super heavy weights. I'm just trying to go to almost that failure and just feel the good burn. But absolutely, every pound of muscle mass you put on, you raise your resting metabolic rate by 10 calories. So imagine let's say you put on 10 pounds of muscle, where some people be like, oh my gosh, the scale went up 10 pounds. You get to eat an extra 100 calories a day and not have to worry anything at all.
I did not know that. Okay, good to know.
It's really amazing how, like, when I signed up to start working with my personal trainer probably 6 months ago, he was like, oh, what are your goals? I was like, well, I'm getting married in September, but I don't want to lose any weight. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, like I feel good where I'm at. I want to maintain my weight. I just want to be toned and I want to get stronger. And he was like, that was probably the most level headed answer I've ever heard from anybody when I asked that question. Because we have to look at, like, what am I looking to get out of it? How do I want to feel better? And especially too, as a dancer growing up, I danced until I was 12. There's a lot of pressure to be as thin and as light and as dainty as possible. And I was just not that girl. I was always someone with a bigger chest, a little bit bigger hips, thanks to my mom and my grandma. And it's like, I can't change that. So I'm just going to work with what I have and figure it out from there. And that's when I turned to sports too.
Yeah. Yeah. I was always the one that would lift the other girls and dance. But you know what? I won our push-up contest and won us a pizza party. So
That's a true winner.
that's a strength, Being strong is good. So I mean, you're getting married this week, literally. That's so exciting. How has being a bride shifted your mindset around how you look?
It was really, really eye-opening when I went to go try on dresses last summer, that bridal sizes are not, street sizes at all. So I put something on, they're like, "Oh, it was like 3 sizes larger than what I normally wear." And, like, you have that little second of a panic of like, "Oh god, what happened?" And then you realize, "Okay, it's normal, whatever." I was really frustrated though when I got my dress. I got it down in New York City. They said if I had to go up one size, it would charge me an extra 10%. And I was like, I feel like I'm an average body size person. I couldn't believe that. I was like, that's not okay. But a lot of the pressure that I found was more externally than it was internally, because I had done all the work on my relationship with food and, coming out of my eating disorder and seeing my therapist and just talking about, like, that positive self-image and confidence. I had done all that work, but that pressure was still there from the outside on, Instagram and social media of, do this training and, you want to look strong. And now I'm seeing all the videos where some girls doing lateral raises in her wedding dress. And I'm like, I am not bringing weights to our
I
getting
saw
ready
that.
room. Good for her, but I am not doing that. So I have found it's figuring out what I want and then also remembering my fiance loves me for me. He wouldn't love me anymore if I had lost 10 pounds or if I gained 10 pounds. At the end of the day, I've had to remind myself it's just about Joe and I. And if I gained 10 pounds through this process, then maybe I needed to. Maybe my body was saying that we needed to add weight. I've been able to maintain and my dress fits great, and it had to get, changed a little bit because I did have to open up the cups. Fortunately, they did not charge me extra for that from the bridal salon. But I think it was taking in that it's not me that has to change. I think it's the society that has to change.
Yeah. And it's also, I think, who's to say that your wedding day is the peak of your existence as a woman? I mean, I think that that whole narrative has to change because, like, we're only getting started. And, being the youngest, most beautiful, skinniest version of yourself on your wedding day should not be the highlight of your life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Honestly, no one's gonna remember what size you were when you die, which this sounds really sad, but no one's gonna be like, "She was a hell of a size 4." No, I've been to, unfortunately, quite a few funerals. No one has ever said that. It's always about the personality that the person has and the vibe that they bring to the room and, the things that they've helped other people do and accomplish, which is a good thing to remind ourselves that, nothing fortunately, nothing changes after you get married, at least in my own opinion, for what I'm predicting. If anything, you just continue to grow, and it's another step kind of in this marathon that we're on.
So, what about 2025? Is there anything that you have on the horizon?
Really starting to think about changing the narrative at work, especially with the new year coming around weight loss challenges. I was doing some reflecting a couple weeks ago, and if you've ever seen the episode of The Office where it's two of them and it's the weight loss challenge and they all have to stand on the scale, and Kelly Kapoor is doing, like, I think just water and she passes out. It's like, why are we still doing this? Why is that still the approach? So I'm starting to plant some seeds with some of my network on thinking about changing how we approach health and wellness in the workplace. And even just coming in and doing lunch and learns and just sharing that, basic nutrition education that none of us were given is really something that I'm looking forward to in 2025. We've already got some things on the calendar, so very excited about that. And continuing to grow my network. This is something that I've really focused on this past year and my previous 5 years in business. I think it was very um, dove into the social media of things and those online connections, which are absolutely great, that I never really built that in-person connection here locally. And like your events are great for that, of just having that group of like-minded people who get together, who want to help each other, who want to go get coffee afterwards, and creating those introductions. It really has been a game changer because I now have, all these people in my network could be like, Emily's great. But then I also have all these people that I can connect to each other. That's what I love about it. Ending that meeting of who can I connect you to? Like, what are you excited about? How can I help you grow? Because I'm excited about you.
Yeah, well, I've noticed you're very involved with the Liverpool Chamber.
Yes.
Yeah. So, before we close out, go ahead and talk a little bit about what you do with them and how you contribute.
So I am on the marketing committee for the Liverpool Chamber. I was tapped by Ashley Krisman from Sydney Federal Credit Union. She is on the board and she was saying, we'd love to have you on the marketing committee. I see all the stuff that you do for social media. So I originally, before we bought our house over in East Syracuse, I lived right outside the village of Liverpool. One of my clients has been part of the chamber forever. And she's like, you got to join. It's a really, really great group and everyone really pours into each other. So I've been part of the networking, our marketing committee now for probably like 6 or 7 months or so, which has been really great. They're like, now we want you on the board. And I was like, let's look at my schedule first. I would love to, but I'm on the board for WBOC, which is Women Business Opportunity Connection. And that takes up time too, but it's another great networking group. And also on the board for our regional dietetics board too. So it's finding where that stuff can fit and also what that community is. But the Liverpool Chamber, they're hosting networking events every week. We had a networking lunch last week at Spaghetti Warehouse. Tomorrow there is an after hours event at the Onondaga Yacht Club at Onondaga Lake. They're always hosting stuff and it's very, very active. And the people that are there and go to the events want to meet other people, which is great.
Yeah, no, they're awesome. They're always up to something. I think the
Yes.
Liverpool Chamber is definitely one of the most active, and exciting chambers in this region. So, if there's anyone listening and looking to join a chamber, that's a great one. Um, but yeah, I noticed you were on their social media and you contribute in that way, and I think I knew that you were part of their marketing department. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you have your hands in a lot of different places, but you are carrying it and you are doing it so well.
Thank you.
Um, I would love to grab coffee with you sometime too and
Yeah.
just follow your journey.
It's all things that I love doing. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. So any event that I'm going to or any networking thing that I'm going to or anything for the chamber or WBOC, I'm going to it and I'm a part of it because I want to be. I'm a part of Leadership Greater Syracuse this year and those events have been amazing, being a member for this year's class. And it's something that has really reminded me how great Syracuse is, how great, Central New York is, and the possibilities are really endless.
Yeah, I love that. What a way to end the episode.
Yeah.
Nothing but positive vibes over here. Thank you so much, Emily, for joining me and sitting down with me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cultivate CNY. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you left us a review and make sure you're subscribed to the show. Speaking of the show, if you know anyone or if you are interested in being our next guest on Cultivate CNY, be sure to submit us an application. You can just click the link in the show notes. And if you're a business owner that's interested in getting in front of our audience, you can go ahead and email us at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more about sponsorship and advertising opportunities. All right, that's it for now. I'll catch you guys next Monday. Thank you.